Well, that was an interesting company party we just had. We had a screening of a holiday, well, I think a holiday classic, but I don't know if that would be the case for everybody. And it was a first time viewing for you, but
yes.
So this is the Top Shelf Video Podcast. My name is Eli.
And I'm Jaime.
And we're both co-owners of our video store, Top Shelf Video. And so, yeah, we've kind of, we're a relatively new store to the area, the neighborhood, the community. Yeah, I think in the spirit of the holiday season and all that stuff, we thought maybe it'd be kind of fun to cover some movies, but I thought it'd be a great time to show this movie to our employees, and we had a couple friends and employees show up for this screening, but I guess just thinking about the holiday season, it did have me kind of thinking back to when we were kids, and I know we talked a little bit last time about some of our past, but one of the things that I remember for myself as a young person, because I think both you and I started working pretty much right at 15, right? Like we were, as soon as we could work.
As soon as we could work, yeah, we were out there working, and because we wanted to. I mean, that was kind of, we grew up like that was what you were supposed to do,
right?
Yeah,
and I think we were also like, we were kids of the 80s, so we were lucky enough to have the hey, these newfangled things are coming out, like a Walkman and a Discman and
a Discman, yeah.
and all these things. And, so like you needed money because mom and dad aren't going to pay for, this expensive Walkman or whatever. And so yeah. I remember one of my first major purchases that I got with my first check. And I remember it being around Christmas time because it was like there were like the sales and all the stuff. My first purchase, or major purchase, I guess in my mind, I mean, it wasn't my first check, I should say. It wasn't like, honestly, I think the first thing I may have bought, and I think it's mostly because dad was like, so you're going to take us out to eat now because you're making money? And I was like, okay. And I think we went to like a Chinese restaurant or something. I don't know. I just remember like being like paying or something. But the thing that I really wanted and I started saving up money for was like a VCR. And the first VCR I bought, I remember we were like in Brownsville and we were at the Montgomery Wards there because it was the place. Yeah, it was the bigger of the two locations, I think. And so they had more variety to sort of pick from. And I was being very, very particular because I wanted a hi-fi VCR. It had to be that because then I could get better audio to come out of it or whatever. And man, I want to say it was like maybe like $300 or something. It's like $299 or two something. And it was, that was like 3 paychecks. Like, because what minimum wage back then was like, $2.75 maybe.
Man, I don't even remember.
It was something like that. Yeah. Cause I think I remember when I broke like the $3 threshold, I was like, oh man, now I'm making money. Like once I got up to like $5, I was just like, oh man, like I am so rich. Like
I'm a millionaire.
But I remember Montgomery Wards because we had to go, I think that's the ticketing one, right? Didn't you have to like, cause like they'd have the products out, but then you kind of get the little ticket and then you take the ticket. Or was it service merchandise?
Maybe I think service merchandise, but Montgomery Wards was like we understood what layaway was because of mom and dad, right? Like so we understood the process. Like you could put shit on layaway, yeah, and you would pay a little bit every, and it was a way of doing shit. We understood the concept. It was so
nothing wrong with
once
that.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but do you remember your sort of first big purchase with like your check?
Yeah, major purchase. Yeah. Because I was the first. Obviously, since I was the oldest, I got I inherited the Nissan Sentra, if you recall, so I could get to high school. So my first major purchase was a Kenwood CD player.
Oh man, I remember that.
We had a detachable face.
Yep. The theft device.
I bought. Oh yeah. I remember it was that in conjunction with some Pioneer 6x9 speakers and a little small amp that could fit in my hand. And then we got I talked Victor into helping me out because at the time he was working at an installation place.
Right.
So so I went to his house and I spent a Saturday at his house and he wired it up for me. And I'll never forget that shit, man, because even Mom we laughed about it later because I went to Fayetteville and I spent the Saturday with him. We got everything wired and hooked up, man. It sounded so awesome. And I drove back from it was basically an hour. Well, no, it was an hour drive. We were still no, we were in Harlingen already, so it was about an hour drive. Yeah. So I came back and I was just blasting CNC Music Factory.
Yeah.
that was the first CD I had that I wanted to play in there. And I remember Mom was saying she heard me coming down Dixieland Road. Mm-hmm. She already knew. She was like, was that you?
Yeah.
Because I had just little 6x9 speakers that we changed out in the back, but I remember that. Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I was blasting that shit.
I remember because the Nissan Sentra is so small, and like the tires on the Sentra were like the size of most people's like spare tires. And like it was so tiny, and it because it was like it was a 2-door automatic or a manual shift.
Yes.
And like the fact that thing was like putting out that amount of wattage. Like, I was surprised that the battery lasted as long as it did. Like, that thing would have just murdered like any other battery. Because I remember that was during the whole getting a kick-ass like box for your car and like the bass and the amps and all that stuff. And like
I wanted like the big woofers, but that wasn't going to fit in there. Yeah. So I just got some really nice 6x9s. That would have destroyed the
car. Like, I think it would have shooken the car to the point where the glass would have just broken or whatever.
Yep. But that was my big, I remember that was like the biggest, saved money to have all this installed and all that shit. Right. Yeah. That was, cause I was by then I was a sophomore because of the age. I guess I would have been a junior. Mm-hmm. I was already working at the theater, but but once the car was in the picture, then that was like all my, money went into the car.
Right.
Cause that's, I had to have that.
Yeah. Cause I think Mom and Dad ended up giving you the car. Didn't they, like when you joined the Army? Because like I remember walking to work a lot of the times because, we didn't live that far from the mall. Like it was a mile and a half or something. And it was like, I'll just walk to work, and like it hardly ever rained and it hardly ever was that cold, like down south. So like it really wasn't that big of a deal. And I always remember that because then I thought, well, my next big purchase is going to be a Discman. Because I wanted to have my music so I can listen to it while I'm going to work. But little did I know, because I remember paying a lot of money for that Discman, but they hadn't really figured out like disc skipping technology yet. So basically I had to carry this like disc player, like a plate in my hand flat as I walked, because if I turned it sideways or if I did anything, it would skip. And so like, I was like, man, I made like a terrible purchase. Cause like, if you're sitting at home, it's a great purchase, but for what I thought it was going to be for, I should have bought like a Walkman or something that would have been easier, but
right.
Oh man, it just, it made me think a lot about the sort of gifts and things that we did for the holiday season. Which, I would say we were for the most part pretty good kids. We weren't on the naughty list, I guess, as Santa, Killer Santa would say.
Not officially.
Yeah.
There was no social media back then, so it didn't happen. It didn't happen.
Well, I guess we can jump into our movie then. We had our little company party and ordered some pizza and had some, had a couple of folks over and, I've always considered Silent Night, Deadly Night like a fun classic, and with probably one of the more iconic posters of the 80s and of the video store era. Yep. Which kind of goes back to like when we said we're going to do this for the company party, you were like, I've never seen Silent Night Deadly Night. You probably, there's a lot of movies like this for me as well too, where it's like, I saw one recently and I was like, I thought I saw this. And then I watched it. I was like, I have not seen this. And it must have been something else, that was making me think that, but, why, or how did you think, or what is it that made you think you had seen this? Was it just the amount of times we'd see the poster in the video store?
Every video store had this movie poster.
Yeah.
I mean, mind you, maybe not the blockbusters, but like, we were more keen on the
smaller,
like the smaller mom pop. Yeah. The A1 video, I cannot remember the name of the store, but there was, I don't know if you remember, but there was, when we'd go visit Theo Eddie or Victor in Fayetteville, when like you had to take that little turn onto the little service road, and there was a convenience store right there on the corner.
Oh yeah.
And in the near the register, they had like 2 or 3 little wire frames. Then they had videos. Yep. So that was like our place to go if we were going to spend part of the most of the day there, with Theo Eddie or whatever. We would go there to get videos. And I just remember that being one of those places. And I remember that place specifically had this poster.
Yeah. And that place felt like the kind of place where you would rent this because, I mean, there was nothing wrong with that place. It was totally fine, but it felt a little grimy, a little like.
It was a lot grimy. Yeah. It was a lot grimy.
Yeah. Cause like, I remember because they had, it's like your classic, like off the beaten paths, like sort of gas station, but they also had like food and snacks for the neighborhood or whatever. And I want to say they sold like burritos and stuff like the kind that they just kind of
they had a small kitchen.
Yeah.
They had like a very small kitchen.
Yeah.
Limited stuff.
Yeah.
But then they did have the cooler for like, the eggs and the milk and that shit.
That's right.
The bread. Yeah. So it was big enough, but it had this, like you said, I that's perfectly described. It had this level of griminess. Like it didn't have like the corporate standard, 7-Eleven, the shit needs to be clean.
Right. It serviced the community, and that was like its main function.
Yeah. Especially as far out as that was. I mean, it wasn't like super far from town, but
far enough.
Far enough that it was just more convenient to go to the end of the neighborhood. And I don't even think it had gas pumps. Now that I'm thinking about it, it didn't. It was a convenience store.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, you're right. No, I don't think there was any of that. And just because it was kind of funny. I've seen this movie quite a few times, and then like when the Alamo Drafthouse shows it or whatever, like it's always kind of fun to go. I remember they came out with a action figure for the Killer Santa for this movie, the Billy. And then even I want to say like last year I bought one of the t-shirt companies, Fright Rags, I think, put out like a little mini card game version of this where you have to make your way out of the toy store, I think, or something. But like it's like a little like it was. Denise and I played it, and it's okay. Like it's not super great, but it was kind of fun because I think you're trying to escape from Billy. But yeah, we're talking about 1984's Silent Night, Deadly Night. Which, it's man, this movie has like, we've mentioned before, we're not like a trivia, podcast by any means, or we don't do deep research and deep dives into the movies. However, this movie has like a lot of, history behind it, especially in terms of, the controversy, behind this movie. Yeah. I mean, clearly, not only from the poster itself, but then once people started realizing like the themes of it all, then it was like, oh, we can't have this. And a lot of the conservative types came out, in full force and basically got it shut down. But really it wasn't the conservatives that really got it shut down. It was the fact that, one of the investment groups realized like, oh, we're investing in this movie, or like we through like subsidiaries or however, like corporations put money in different places. And one of them put money into this movie, not knowing like it's one of those things, right? It's like, oh, we give money to make movies, but we don't really necessarily keep an eye on what these movies are. And I guess that company was owned by Coca-Cola. And then when Coca-Cola was like, wait, you're telling me a movie about a killer Santa is out in theaters, and our big mascot is the Santa Claus during the 80s, like 70s and 80s when Coca-Cola was huge. And so they were like, yeah, we're pulling this from theaters. So the movie only lasted 2 weeks in theaters and got pulled. Like, it never came back into theaters until May of 1985. So technically this movie was released in 84, but then was like a massive hit in the video store, but then came back to theaters in May of 1985. Which is just really funny because also like people were picketing this movie in front of theaters. There was like these mom groups, like like whatever they call them, like action groups or whatever, like that were like protesting the movie. The church was protesting the movie. Siskel and Ebert like famously like called out the producer for being like basically like scum of the earth. Like they really went like hardcore on the producer and talked about how this is like the most disgusting movie, and that, you know, like it, you know, because those guys really loved film. And I mean, we'll talk about the movie, but it's not like a bad movie. It's just,
no.
Is it a mean movie? Like, okay, yeah, probably. But, you know, I don't know. It's all about the perspective of everything. But, yeah, this movie came out the same week as Nightmare on Elm Street. And I think it actually outmade more money than Nightmare on Elm Street. Wow. Then, but only for 2 weeks, and then it was pulled. So,
right.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, this movie just, you know, it's hard to, it makes sense that you feel like you maybe had seen it or felt like that because, and I don't think we remember any of the controversy around it, you know, because you would have,
not at all.
Yeah, you would have been like 10 and I would have been like, you know, 7 or 8. And I don't think I didn't see this until like high school. And then I remember thinking, it's like, what is this? Like, this is crazy, you know, this movie. But,
yeah.
You know, so, well, let's see. Yeah, let's kind of jump into it. I guess the movie, I love how this movie starts. It starts very jolly with the sort of animated Silent Night, you know, with the reef, and like it's done in a very Disney sort of way, and then the blood splats on the screen and it's like Deadly Night. So it's like Silent Night, Deadly Night, and the music like quickly changes, and you know, you see this family on a road trip, and they're on their way to go see grandpa, or the guy is like saying his dad. So the two kids in the little back, it's like their grandparents, or I guess grandpa. And I always find it funny because like the family is a very like I don't know, I guess like the very classic sort of family that's just, you know, they have the station wagon and they're singing the Christmas carols and, you know, all the things or whatever, very normal. And then when they get to the facility where their grandpa is or the dad is, it turns out it's sort of like I'm not even sure what it is. I don't think it's it doesn't seem like it's an old person's home. It's almost like because like it almost feels like a facility for people that are like insane or something.
Like a mental institution, like Arkham Asylum almost.
Yeah. It was very like, what is this place? Like they don't really describe that. And then, the son who's talking to his dad, you know, who, I don't know, seems very passive, you know, just like, hey dad, it's us. Like, and then the mom is kind of like, he doesn't talk. He doesn't know us. Like, and then the little kid's like, well, why the fuck are we here? Like, why do we drive all the way out here? He's
just worried about getting home by the time before Santa.
Right. Because this is all on Christmas Eve.
Why are we here?
Yeah. Then why are we here if like he won't even talk to us? And so the parents get excused because I guess they're talking about his charts or his whatever. And it's funny because the grandpa, let's see, the grandpa who's played by Will Hare. I don't know if I know, like he looks real familiar, but I don't know if I know him from anything else. That's where he's from. He's in Back to the Future. He's the guy that I want to say when he crashes into the barn and then like the son. The son's like, it's an alien. And then
he's showing him the comic book.
Yeah. And then he has like a shotgun. I think that's him. Like,
I see it.
I think that's him. Yeah. You know what? I'm almost sure it's him. Yeah. He's the one that's like, he's like that cotton picking, or I don't know what he says, but then like, it's very like Looney Tunes. Cause he's like, he has his shotgun or whatever, but, yeah,
dude, that's a good call out, man. You nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because he has a very like distinct look about his face and then his voice. And so like it's really funny because like this movie is about like the ultimate amount of trauma that I guess any child can take. Because like he's there with his grandpa, and his grandpa, who everybody thinks is basically a vegetable, like just lights up around the kid, and he's like scares the shit out of him by telling him, he's like, hey, you know what Christmas is all about, right? Like he's like,
yeah,
you know, you know what Santa does? Like he just punishes people that like are bad. And he's like, so don't ever be bad. And like he's got this creepy face and eyes and voice about him, and basically almost like threatens the kid. Like, you know,
yeah. It's like he was bullshitting when everyone else was there. He was just acting like he wasn't mentally there. As soon as the door closes, his eyes just kind of look over to the kid in that creepy,
that big
slow
smile.
ass. Yeah. And he starts talking to him about, you know, all about, you know, you got to be good or they're gonna, you know, they'll punish. And
yeah, but like in a super threatening way, like not in a you know, like how our uncles would, you know, give us like they tell us like the kukui is going to come and get us, you know, if we don't behave, and we're like, what? It's like, I don't know, kukui being like, I don't know, generic for like boogeyman, I guess, or Spanish boogeyman. But yeah, it's funny because that whole sequence, I'm just like, I remember the first time I saw this, I'm like, Jesus, like this grandpa is just like laying into this kid. And so, you know, the parents come back out and, you know, he's like, grandpa was talking, and he's like, oh, you don't know anything, little kid, like whatever. And so they head away from the facility, and they're on their way home on a late Christmas night. And, and that's the thing, like the grandpa, like specifically calls out, you know, that Santa Claus is not good. Like he's just, the worst of the worst. You don't mess with Santa Claus. And so, of course, lo and behold, as the parents are on their way back home, they run into a car that is stranded on the side of the road, and a man dressed as Santa Claus. And so they pull over, you know, to kind of help, and, you know, hey, do you need some help, Santa Claus? Maybe, you know, because they're like, oh, maybe he was on his way to a house party or something, you know, we should help him. And it turns out that Santa Claus is a guy who had done some other crime earlier in the movie. And now he's like, he's targeted these guys on the side of the road with his gun, and basically like kills the husband, beats up the wife, kills her, and then the kids one of the kids runs off into like, I guess like the little forest on the other side, and then the little baby brother is just left in the car. And so like the second most traumatizing thing that this kid goes through is seeing Santa Claus follow through on the plan of what grandpa just said. Like within 30 minutes of leaving like grandpa, like he has now like witnessed the actual like the plan follow itself through. So it's like, well, I guess that's a real thing, you know? So, and then I guess from that, and we were talking about this as we were watching the movie, it's like, I guess the kids were handed over to the state or the church, because they're now orphans. I guess they had no other family.
Mother Margaret, or
Mother Superior,
Sister
Margaret.
The building had a like St. Mary's orphanage,
or something,
or children's orphanage, or something
for children that have been rescued from murder.
We did it. I had that conversation because I it kind of made me think. I'm like, when
did we just start handing over?
Who decided that the church was going to take orphans? Like, I understand the whole, the goodwill and all that aspect of it, but it was like, I'm sure there's some legal.
Yeah, it seems like the state that should be involved a little more than just like, I don't know, here you go. Like, because there were a lot of kids there. It's like, man, these Santa killings seem to happen like pretty often if there's that many kids like in the orphanage or whatever makes kids orphans. I don't know, but it was it was just kind of funny because like, and you and I were talking about this. It's like I don't remember. Like I remember there were some big churches, and we grew up around a lot of, I guess, like he's running Ira's toy store, and it's funny because they're just having this conversation of he's like, I don't do charity work with the, like I need strong, people for these positions because it's a lot of carrying boxes and da 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 da. Yeah. And he's like, because I can't be giving jobs out to little kids. And Sister Margaret's like, oh well, you should meet Billy, and then like fucking Billy shows up. This like specimen of a man, like
he's like all cut and like the angle they show him, he's all like I was
like his what do they call it? Your traps? Is that like right here by the neck? Like
I think so.
Or whatever. Like his upper like neck body muscle is just like he looked like a wrestler. Like I was just like Jesus Christ. Like what? I mean, what are they feeding the orphans that like body of Christ or blood of Christ or something? Like they really juiced him up with like Christ or whatever. Cause, man, he was like a rock. And so it was kind of funny how Mr. Sims, like in an almost like erotic way, looks at him going like, damn, like that's.
That was creepy. I was like, he was looking at him like it was like a scene from Magic Mike or some shit.
Yeah. Where he's like,
and I was, he looked at him kind of like pervertedly. And I was like, oh man, is he going to get molested by this dude? I was like, fuck, here we go. Because I went in going, not knowing what was going to happen.
That's true. You hadn't seen this.
So when I saw that, I'm like, oh, is this going to be the next traumatic experience? Because this dude's already fucking. He's like eyeballing this dude.
And Mr. Sims is like, man, I could have a little Billy snack. Cause he like, you're right. He weirdly stares him down. And then he's like, I could do that. Like I can bring Billy on board. And so it was kind of funny cause like, it's been a minute. I don't think we saw this last year. I feel like Denise and I watch this maybe like every year. And usually we have friends over, we have drinks or whatever. Cause like, it's sort of a classic genre sort of movie, but I kind of forgot that like right after he gets hired, there's like this Hallmark like montage of like doing good things. And because I guess he gets hired like in the spring, it seems like he's hired in the spring. And so like, all this wholesome, like helping out people in the shop and helping kids and lifting boxes and like, and the music is all like real, like peppy sort of Hallmark music. And then the last thing of the montage, because I guess the seasons are changing, is they roll out the big happy holidays. And then it says like Merry Christmas. And then there's a big Santa Claus in the middle. And like the music's like boom. And like he's like, oh, triggered. Like,
it's like his eye starts to twitch. He's like, oh shit. He was fine until the Santa came
just now. Yeah. And then like now Santa's gonna screw it all up. And so, like, we, and it's funny because like, we don't really have much, we don't know much about the store other than like, it seems like everything's cool at the Hallmark way. But then after, I guess during Christmas season, like you really start to learn all the employees. And so there's like a woman and a guy and Mr. Sims and an older woman. And like, everyone's kind of like a little bit of a dick. Like, they're just kind of like, I don't know if they're just like kind of rude or just don't care about their jobs, but they kind of treat Billy like kind of crappy. Everybody kind of does. Like, he's just like some, I don't know, like some bum or whatever. And then, like, Billy throughout the movie is starting to now have like flashbacks, like almost like Vietnam flashbacks of like when he sees Santa Claus, it triggers a Santa Claus, like sort of a flashback, or he's having like,
that's when he has that nightmare.
Yeah. He has that nightmare about
because he's fantasizing about Pamela,
right?
And they're like making out, and then he gets woken up because in the dream he's having, he gets
Santa
stabbed
Claus,
by a Santa.
When did he get stabbed? Like he gets like, what do you call that when you're like when you do that to a deer? When you're like,
gutted, I guess.
Yeah, when you're getting like dressed, like when you're field dressing, like I was like, God damn, I kind of forgot that. It's like he gets stabbed and then pulls the knife like down his entire side. I was like, oh my God, like. This is a pretty hardcore effect for like that time period. Yeah. I'm almost curious how they did that because it looked really good.
It did.
And he wakes up from the nightmare and I'm just like, oh man. And of course, like they have a Santa Claus in the store that is doing stuff, with the kids or whatever. And Billy's working in the back, like stocking or whatever, the back. And then of course on Christmas Eve, the guy who was supposed to be Santa Claus gets sick or something happens where
he just called in.
He just called in. So they're like, well, we need somebody to play Santa. And they look around the store and Mr. Sims, he's like, well, I'm not going to do it. And so they look over to Billy and they're like, you're doing it. But they don't know anything about like his background. And I guess, I don't know if a lot of people would talk about that, if that did happen to you. It's like, hey, my parents were murdered by Santa Claus and my grandpa is like my only remaining family who knows the dark secrets of like the Santa, the realm of Santa or something weird. Like, so they're like, well, you're going to be Santa Claus, and they dress him up and they throw him on the chair. And they're like, okay, go be Santa Claus. Which is really funny because he's just like awkwardly with the kids, like,
oh God, that was so terrible.
Like
why are you doing that? Be quiet. He's like the whole time he's like, why are you doing that?
Yeah, the little girl, the little girl's like, like I don't like. She's kind of like being a kid. Like she finds it uncomfortable and she doesn't want to be there. And he, like you were saying, he's like, don't do that. Like stop being like almost talking to her like a dog, like not knowing how to talk to a dog. And he's like, don't be bad. Don't be naughty. Like, stop doing that. And then like the parents that are like behind the little, like, the separator thing or whatever is like, oh, he's so good with the children. He's like, yeah, cause he's threatening your children. Like, and doesn't know how to talk to them that whole sequence is like really awkward. We're not really sure what, Mr. Sims, or Ms. Randall or some of the other folks kind of did. But I guess they were being naughty. And so they all get killed. Then somehow he has like a naughty radar or something because he just like randomly goes to another house where like young people are like also being naughty on top of a pool table, which that sequence with Denise, who's Linnea Quigley, who is like one of the, I'd probably say top 3 scream queens of like the 1980s. She has her own, actually, I think I got it right here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, here it is. She has her own, Linnea Quigley's like horror workout.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. This was like a big,
she holding a chainsaw?
That's a chainsaw. Yeah. And she works out with zombies and shows you how to. Oh my God, like that's hilarious. I'll give you a workout you'll never forget. But yeah, it's. But yeah, this was like this is a big VHS thing back in the day. But yeah, so like Linnea Quigley is like one of the was in this movie, or putting her in this movie was like one of those like I don't know. I guess you could say like it would like if you knew that like Tom Cruise was going to be in a genre movie, it's like, oh, this has Linnea Quigley. Like that's going to draw in at least another 100,000 rentals, right? Just on that alone. Because you're probably going to see her boobies and, she's probably going to die in some like gruesome fashion, which she does in this one. Her death probably is one of the cooler ones of, because again, it's competing against Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one. And Nightmare on Elm Street, the first one, didn't really have, well, no, that's not true. That actually had one of the most hardcore kills with, I forgot what her name is, where she's up on the ceiling and she's getting like tossed around.
Oh, yeah.
And then also like, what's his face?
Johnny Depp's one going into getting sucked into the bed.
And then all the blood getting like shot up. Yeah. Okay. So I guess it's not a fair comparison because I was gonna say that would probably win out over this movie. But I was gonna say the way Linnea quickly gets killed with the what is it, like a moose or a deer or something? It must have been a deer, right?
It was like elk or something because it was huge. Because and the horns that she got impaled with were like almost like in the front.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like your typical deer with just like the antlers to the side. Right. It was something else.
You're right. It probably was an elk because a moose has the ones that are more like they actually have more,
or maybe a gazelle. I don't know. It was something that had additional
horn,
pointy
horns or whatever,
pointy horns.
But that was a pretty hardcore kill, but at the same time, like a pretty impressive for like that time period.
I mean, it was impressive. Just like the way they filmed it or they shot it, so that it was like you could see the horns. It was like the horns coming through the stomach.
Yeah,
kind of. It was kind of like it took a minute for them to like pop through.
Yeah,
and then it was like, oh, okay, all right. You know, it's just.
And that's what I was saying.
It was well done.
Yeah. That's what I was like jokingly also saying. It's like, man, whoever mounted that thing on the wall did like a really good job because like it's holding up like 115-pound person probably and it didn't come crashing down. But and so like he goes around murdering other people. It's kind of funny because this is the scene where before he leaves this house, there's a little girl who was sleeping waiting for Santa. And the babysitter and her boyfriend are now dead, even though the little girl doesn't know this yet. And she comes out and sees Santa Claus in the hallway and is like, Santa Claus, you came. And then he's immediately like, have you been good? You didn't do anything naughty, have you? And like starts interrogating this like small kid. And she's like, no, I've been super good. And like, you think the way they set up that tension, and I would imagine, man, I can only begin to imagine in 1984, like some super conservative type person or somebody who just is not familiar with these sorts of like goofy types of movies, you know, because it's legitimately kind of creepy if you're watching it for the first time where you're like, man, are they about to like murder this child?
I thought so.
Yeah. It was funny because I looked at you and I was like, oh man, I think you think that's what's going to happen. But
yeah,
she had not been naughty. So he gives her a box cutter that I guess he had used maybe or something. And the little girl's like, thanks, I guess. And then like Santa leaves. But that is like, I think that's like one of the infamous scenes that Siskel and Ebert like call out of being like extremely disgusting. Why are they doing this? You know, da 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 da. And I was like, it's a movie, but like, I don't know. I do remember that scene because the way, like, to give credit where credit's due, like if you're adding like suspension of like, oh man, I don't know what's about to happen. Like that scene for sure. You're like, I don't know what's about to happen right now because he goes down on one knee and he's murdered everybody else. And, is he going to murder this little girl? And then, you know, he doesn't because she admits to not doing anything naughty and only being nice. And so, he leaves and murders up a few more people in the neighborhood. And then I guess at this point, I guess by now, like Sister Margaret, and I forget why, somebody gets a hold or somehow Sister Margaret, I'm trying to remember now, she knows that that they have gotten Billy to dress up as Santa or doing Santa stuff or something.
Yeah.
And somebody reaches out to her and then she notifies the police of like, oh, this isn't good. Like, we need to find him. And then sure enough, when she shows up at Ira's toy store, everybody's dead. And so she's like, oh, crap. So she goes and gets a hold of the police. And so the police all night is like looking for a killer Santa. And it was such a like a Barney Fife kind of police force, you know? But they had like the cops, and then they had the detective who's on the case. It's just kind of funny because they all kind of suck at doing their jobs.
They almost killed a father.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
I mean, mind you, it was bad timing on Dad's part there, trying to sneak in because
But it's Christmas Eve.
Well, yeah, true. But Santa's typically, according to Gremlins, Santa Clauses come down chimneys.
That's right. Yeah.
But this Santa had like the ladder and was climbing through a window. It looked off.
Yes.
So I guess to give the cops a benefit of the doubt, it definitely looked like a criminal.
Yeah.
It is
just
but they just come in door busting and guns blazing, and they're ready to go and kill the criminal, and then it turns out to just be a dad sneaking up on surprising his daughter.
Yeah, which is a little weird because it's like, wouldn't you just leave the gifts underneath the tree? Like, I don't think Santa goes to your bedroom. Like, that's kind of weird. But
yeah, I don't remember the stories ever being Santa will come through your window,
right,
and surprise you. It's like, go to bed because the gifts will be under the tree,
so that you don't have to do that part.
Because especially us growing up, because we didn't grow up in an area where chimneys were a thing,
right? Exactly. So
because it didn't get hot enough down in South Texas to warrant having a fireplace,
right?
So it was just kind of like, it was like, put your ass to bed. And then I remember we used to have to leave because we had the
iron gates,
the iron gates on our doors.
Yeah.
So we would always be like, hey, don't lock those because he's got to get in.
Right. I do remember, and I don't know if you remember this, not to tangent too much, but there was one year in particular I remember because and maybe it was me because I was the middle kid, and I started questioning things of like, wait a minute, explain to me how it is that chimneys is apparently his operation.
That's his MO.
And we don't have a chimney, and like our house is small, and like, what does he just come into the front door or like whatever? And like, I remember Mom saying like, well, sometimes he just like leaves them outside. And I was like, I don't know about all that. Yep. And then I think Dad went out of his way to maybe get on the roof and like drop a bag, like, and it was like on the front door. And I remember being like, holy shit. Like, and it was just like a black, like a
hefty trash bag.
Like a hefty trash bag. Yeah. Filled with stuff. So I was like,
I remember that.
Yeah. Cause I was like, damn, like, I guess I would have thought it would have been in an ice bag, but Santa's, it's cutting down on costs because of the Reagan era of like, the economics back then, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it was like a black trash bag filled with a couple toys.
No, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
It was funny because Mom told me later that Dad climbed out of, because we all went to bed, and he climbed out of his bedroom window.
Right.
And ran around the house.
Right.
And put that shit at the front door. And because that way they could come out through their bedroom, and they were like, hey, we heard something at the door.
Yeah. I remember
and
that.
Then we went running. Yeah. And then we went running.
We're like, oh shit. Like, it's real because like you came out of the room. Like,
what is this? Yeah. What is this sorcery?
Yeah, exactly.
And they were like, what, did you hear something? I heard something. And then, he totally played.
It was a good play. Out. Like they executed that one pretty good. And then probably maybe shortly thereafter, it's like, look, we can't do this all the time. Like, Santa's not real.
Yeah. There's insurance, claims we got to
deal
talk
with
about here. Yeah. We don't want to deal with this shit.
Yeah. So Sister Margaret has informed the police. The police are looking for a killer Santa. Hopefully Dad didn't dress up as a Santa when he did all this. I mean, even though he would have been like the Mexican Santa, I don't know, but that would have been.
I don't think he ever did.
Yeah. But so the cops are looking for Santa, and they realize, or I guess through Sister Margaret talking with the detective that's on the case, of like finally saying like, man, he's been through a lot of trauma, and because of that, maybe we can sort of predict like his moves here. And he's like, well, shit, if we can do that, then like, what would he do next? And she's like, oh shit, like he's going to go to the orphanage because I guess he's going to go visit Mother Superior, which again, I'm like, I don't understand that logic, but whatever, I guess, because he was just murdering people around town, I guess, or whatever. But so it's a race now to the orphanage. And then the detective on the case he's reaching out to everybody. It's like all points bulletin, you got to get to the orphanage. There's a Santa on the way. And if you have to shoot to kill, like, get to the Santa. Like we gotta stop this before he gets there. And so everybody's racing there. And I guess it was one cop who was like maybe not very far away and gets over there quickly. And of course, because of the timing of things and also probably because of the script of the movie, but the children and everybody's like, oh, let's all go outside now because the sister or Mother Superior and the other sisters realize that Santa's about to come, and they're all outside, and the cop shows up, and he's like he pulls up and immediately sees a Santa walking towards the orphanage with the children, and all the children are running towards Santa, and they're like, hooray, it's Santa. And of course, like the cop is like yelling, like stop there, stop moving, don't move any further. And then he just guns down Santa, and the movie's over. But the movie's not over because it is not the Santa that we are looking for. These aren't the droids you're looking for, but this is definitely not the Santa that we were looking for. I love how the sequence plays out of like, so the detective and Sister Margaret are still on their way, and they show Santa being killed. But then I guess what do you call the guy at the station?
Like the dispatch?
The dispatch guy. He's like, captain or whatever. He's like, we have a problem. Got a little bit of a problem. He's like, the Santa doesn't match the description of this killer Santa. It's a 60-year-old old man that was killed. And immediately, like, Sister Margaret is like, oh my God. And she's like, that is what was it? It's Father O'Malley or something, or Father O'Brien or something. It was very Irish. She was like O'Hanahan or something. I don't know, but like it was like I think it was like Father O'Brien. But it's like, she's like, oh my God, Father O'Brien, he's the one who dresses up as Santa Claus every year. And it was like, well, why didn't he stop when they told him to stop? He's like, because he's deaf, and he couldn't hear them. And so they gunned him down. So now we have Billy, who has a lot of trauma. All these orphans now have seen Santa Claus get gunned down by the cops, or by this one cop anyways. They're still on their way there, and they get inside, and he tells Mother Superior, like, we need to lock up and stay inside because the killer Santa's on the way. And she's like, I can't believe that you just killed Santa. And he's like, well, these things happen. Like, it was very like nonchalant, like, oh, well, and what he, he's on his way, and I didn't know, and he was dressed as Santa, and I killed him. It's just kind of like, talking about wrong place, wrong time. But
it was Father O'Brien. Good call.
Father O'Brien. Yeah.
Yep.
But so the kids are all singing Christmas carols, and the cop goes to check the property, and then sure enough, Billy is there dressed as Santa and kills the cop and makes his way makes his way to the door. And of course the children are like, Santa again, like, because that other one's dead, but here he is again. So they open the door for Santa, and Santa comes in, and it's Billy, and he immediately goes to Mother Superior and tells Mother Superior that she needs to be punished. And he's ready to lay down the law or the hammer or whatever you want to call it on Mother Superior. And then yet again, the children are traumatized by the second Santa killed within the span of, like, I don't know, 15 minutes of, like, the captain or detective or whatever shows up and guns down Santa in front of everybody, in front of Mother Superior and everybody. And of course the movie just sort of wraps with, Billy's smaller younger brother, who has now seen his brother murdered as Santa, and the end, which leads to our maybe we'll do this next year for our Christmas party, but Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 stars
Ricky.
Yeah, Ricky, who's the brother of Billy. And I'll not to go super deep into that one. I don't know if we'll ever cover that one, but I will tell you, because you haven't seen it before. I want to hear your impressions of this movie. But before you tell me that, so the second movie comes out the following year, very, very quickly. It's one of the faster movies that's ever been made, partly because, so you'll love this. And there's one famous scene, and I'll show it to you afterwards. But so Ricky retells the story of the first movie, and so he's being investigated by the cops. So the second movie is 75% flashback. So you're literally watching the first movie again. They're showing clips from the first movie.
Oh, wow.
And then the last 25% of the movie is like a new movie, but it's really short. Like, so they literally repackaged the movie and called it Silent Night, Deadly Night 2, and loosely like tie it together. And it made quite a bit of money because like everybody wants to see a killer Santa, and he plays a killer Santa because, you know, he's traumatized by seeing his brother killed as a killer Santa. But that has a famous scene called Garbage Day, which I'll show you after we're done here in the shop. But yeah, man, 1984 is Silent Night, Deadly Night, a very genre horror classic. I don't even know if I'd call it horror. It's more like a messed up psychological like thriller horror, I guess you could say. But
yeah.
What do you think? What's your impressions of me showing this to our employees for the company party? What are your impressions?
Well, I mean, I see the tie-in. I mean, because there's, you know, I guess the break happens at a Christmas party. So I mean, it was appropriate, inappropriately appropriate.
Sure, yeah. We don't have HR, so
I mean, yeah, we're not that big. My initial thoughts. I mean, it was everything I was hoping it would be.
Sure.
Again, because, you know, just growing up, basically just seeing the movie poster or the poster in every. I mean, I am willing to put money down. We saw this in every little video store. It was because it's just so fucking iconic. I enjoyed it. Like I said, it you know, I didn't get tied up. I mean, I started to kind of gonna get tied into like, well, why did that happen? And I was like, no, just roll with it.
Yeah,
just whatever. So yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's a great slasher. I'm realizing that. I mean, it seems like post-traumatic stress was like a big. There's a lot of movies that kind of revolve around psychological breaks in the 80s. Yeah. I mean, we've seen Silent Rage, this one.
Rambo,
I mean,
Rambo is like a big one. Like,
yeah. And the PTSD was.
It was like a very taboo. It was like subject matter. Like people didn't want to talk about it prior to the 80s. And then more people were talking about like, this is a real thing. Like, you know.
Yeah. And I think this definitely opened up the discussion because like you said, nobody. Post-Vietnam, nobody was talking PTSD or kind of acknowledging it.
Right.
But the movies were kind of indirectly, I mean, well, not indirectly, it was directly talking, you know, psychologically how, you know, traumatic events can break a person.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so it's a, you know, I mean, and then again, there's a lot of stereotypes, right? Like the Catholic orphanage and with the strict, you know, overly strict, you know, punishing Mother Superior, you know, and so I'm sure maybe that was not. I'm sure that was frowned upon.
Yeah,
you know,
it very much was. Yes,
you know, because the over punishing of nuns towards orphans, that was like the that was the thing we didn't talk about before. It was the whole child molesting.
The church could never be in the wrong. Right.
No, yeah. So like this was definitely, I'm sure that they didn't. I can understand why they were protesting this also.
Absolutely.
Because it didn't shine. There was definitely a light shining on the negative, I guess the bad side of that profession or that,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, overall I enjoyed it. Like I said, it was everything I was hoping it was going to be, just because like I had told you, I in my brain I think it was just because the poster was like, it was something that was being talked about, so I just kind of went along like Silent Night, Deadly Night. You bring it up like, but there was, I guess, water cooler talk. It was like there was enough to kind of bullshit your way through a conversation.
Right.
But
it always shows up on like lists of things when you watch this, and so like if you've seen enough clips, then you're like, oh, maybe I have seen this, which I feel like has happened to me several times, where I'm like, I'll see a clip show of a movie about holiday horror or like this or that, and then I'll be like, oh yeah, and then I'm like, wait, no, I actually have not seen that. So yeah, I was kind of surprised you hadn't seen it, but also not surprised, because it's not one you just pull off the shelf unless you're like somebody like me that, like I've seen, like, it's funny because like everything you're saying, I agree with in terms of the mental break and like the seriousness of some of that. But I feel like these movies, it's not satirical. Like this one's interesting because there are other movies like Silent Rage or some of these other things where it's like, I think they clearly know what they're doing, but at the same time, like this movie rides the line of like not addressing it, or it's more as a crux for the story and everything, and so they kind of just roll with it. So I can see why people were sort of mad with it, but at the same time, when you listen to like the filmmakers and all the people that are like, oh, we just wanted something fun, right? Like recently, Eli Roth came out with like Thanksgiving, which is almost exactly the same movie in a lot of ways, except it's a Thanksgiving character instead of, a Christmas character, of somebody who's just like going through, I guess you could say like trauma, and then they turned that into like a slasher sort of thing. And it's a good movie. It's fun and it's very well done. This one, like, it's kind of funny because as I watched it with you and you're watching it for the first time, like I was kind of gauging your reaction with somebody who's never seen it before. And I kind of realized, like, I mean, I should already know this and I kind of know it, but I've seen it so many times. Like the movie is like pretty dark, like in a lot of ways, but it's dark. And then it's like very slashery and campy and fun. Like the scene with Denise, when she gets like put up, on hung up or whatever, like, and then like the snowboarding, or the kids that are like on the sleds or whatever, like, that they're just doing that for fun. But like the other parts, almost in a comical way, even though they didn't really know it was comical, like the grandpa scene, they do it super serious, and then it's funny because they're doing it so serious. Whereas like, I think in other movies they would probably be like it's funny because like there are movies when casting is really good, and then there are movies when the casting is not good. And I feel like in a movie like this, the casting is almost too good. Like they got the grandpa to be too good of a character that, like, instead of it being sort of like campy, it's kind of like creepy and sort of serious, where it's like, man, grandpa needs like medicine. Like grandpa's got some problems, right? And like, but it comes off as super creepy. But I'm sure like if it was a different like character actor or something, maybe it would have come off like a little differently, right? And it's the same with like Mr. Sims. Like he's a very like kind of goofy, playful character that owns the toy shop, and then he gets murdered, and you're like, wait, what did he do wrong? He was a nice guy.
He didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah, he's like a nice guy. But again, it's like the way that they sort of casted this, like the guy who played Billy, and probably the direction they gave him, because I want to say this was like his first role, maybe. And so
I can see that
it felt like a first role. You know what I mean? Like he's just kind of doing it, the way that he knows how to do it. And like, you're having a little bit of a clash of like people that are good at doing this, and then people that are like, oh, I'm going to be the killer, and da da da. Like, like even with, I mean, granted, to be fair, like on Nightmare on Elm Street, like Freddy is super serious in the first one, but even then he had sort of his little whimsical sort of like little lines, and then by the second and third one, like it's very like, what is it when he smashes that one woman or girl to the TV and he's like, welcome to prime time, bitch, and it's like, it adds a level of like fun and goofiness. And this movie doesn't have a lot of that other than him saying like punish every time he like murders somebody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like he doesn't do it in a Freddy Krueger way. He does it in kind of like an actor trying to find his way, and it doesn't come off as goofy. It comes off as like, man, that's fucked up. Like, but also kind of fun because it is a slasher, it's just kind of a whatever. This actually was his first movie. So, it kind of makes sense. I can kind of see that the casting here was not super good in that they didn't get a good mix of people that probably
like veteran.
Well, like they say, like an ensemble, right? Like the ensemble works well together. They probably just got people that they could afford, and it was like, hey, you're Billy, and that's it. And so,
so what was the total count? So there was four kills in the toy store.
There's 4 in the toy store.
Two in the pool table.
Right.
And then not two, just the one guy on the sled.
Just the one guy on the sled. I guess you kind of assume the other guy gets it, but they never show it.
I think that's it. As far as like
the cop. The cop on the...
Oh, that's right. That cop. Yeah.
The one the orphanage. He gets him down that weird whatever.
Yeah, he's the last kill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell that was.
I don't know if that was like a bomb
shelter.
That was
like where they, that's like where they go punish the kids or something, or like put them in like solitary confinement or some shit.
Yeah, I think that
was some weird shit to have on that property.
Yeah, that orphanage needed to be investigated by like Geraldo or whatever back in the day. Like,
yeah, I don't know what the fuck that was supposed to be, but that's not something you'd expect to find in an orphanage.
Yeah. Is it fair to say this is not a top shelf video?
No, I don't think so. It's definitely I was already kind of like, okay, nah. I mean, it's a
movie. It's a slasher.
It's a movie. Yeah, I mean, it may draw some rentals because I think we need to have the poster.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
and I think that having the poster on the wall is going to generate some rentals out of that. But
sure, yeah,
I'm definitely not gonna. This is not worthy of a top shelf.
Sure. Yeah. No, and I would say like this is one of the few times that like we'll have they've come out with a 4K edition of this. Obviously it was on DVD and it's on VHS. I think we'd be just fine with like I would never want to prevent anybody from renting movies from our store, but I would probably have this like on VHS and only on DVD. And I wouldn't say limit our audience, but like, if and you can watch it. But it's definitely, you have to have that, you gotta have that, tribe around you of friends that you get it, you know what you're getting into. And it's, you kind of have fun with it, like you were saying, like at a certain point you have to disconnect and go like, you can't think through the logic of the movie, even though the movie kind of borderlines wanting you to think through the logic, which is also part of the problem of the movie. Much like Nightmare on Elm Street, like I told you about the second one, it's basically just like a, what were those? Remember like when, like Three's Company or those, like shows would have like the episode where they would show you like, remember that one time we got locked in and then it's like, doodle-doo, doodle-doo, and then they show clips from other episodes. That's all part 2 is. And then part 3, if I remember correctly, part 3 has to do with like witches or like it almost has nothing to do with. Well,
I was gonna say he only had one little brother to be a serial killer. I mean, where do you go from there?
They very very loosely tie it into all the other movies. So part 3 has to do with like a cult maybe, or it's a psychic woman. That's right. she has like psychic abilities, and then it's like what? And then they very loosely like tie it into like the Christmas theme, like at the very end. And then there's a part 4. Part 4 is called Silent Night, Deadly Night 4 Initiation. That one has to do with a cult of witches. And then again, they very loosely tie it into like Christmas and Santa and stuff like that. And then there's the Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 5 called The Toy Maker.
Oh, Jesus.
And then that one came out in 1992. And that one, funny enough, like that one had Mickey Rooney, who
okay.
Famously, like Mickey Rooney came out and talked about how Silent Night, Deadly Night, the first one, was absolute garbage and like what the fuck, and this is ruining films because he was one of those actors that came up during the golden era of cinema, and so he was like in a lot of these whatever. The Toy Maker in Silent Night, Deadly Night 5 is Mickey Rooney, so I guess maybe he changes opinion.
Money talks, huh?
Yeah, or the IRS had something to say about all that. And I will say, like, maybe at some point we'll watch like 2. It has that one funny scene, but I actually think like 5 is quite entertaining because it's just like what the fuck, and it is really really weird, and it was written by a guy named Brian Usna, which if you're a fan of genre movies, like you'll know that name, and he's done some like pretty nutty stuff. So yeah, Silent Night, Deadly Night 5 is pretty fun, but yeah, I definitely not a top shelf. And we'll definitely keep it, VHS and like DVD probably, we'll save our Blu-ray space for a couple other things. I feel like if you're a collector, it's probably worth going out and getting out the collector versions and stuff like that. But, we'll just keep it to rentals for now. So,
yeah, I think the people that would rent this are people that have already seen it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There won't be any like first timers. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so. Unless, you're at a friend's house and it's a watching party and you're there to watch it. So, we'll leave that for, you can rent that from us and then, the rest is on you.
Use it at your own discretion.
Yeah. But you're right. So I feel like in terms of like merch, like we definitely have to have the poster.
Yes.
I almost I would love to have like the standee cutout, those 3-dimensional ones where like the cardboard kind of comes out of the standee a little bit. With the chimney, but it would be cool because, it's 2024 and we have the technology, but like, it would be cool if like they had one of those with the, like I said, the cardboard cutout, but then like the hand with the hand with the axe, like sort of mechanically comes out, and then kind of comes back in and then kind of comes out. Like, so it'd be very elaborate and we'd only have it up during the Christmas season. I think that would be kind of fun. I'm trying to think if there's any other, like maybe we could have like a Christmas ball, like the little decorative balls that it's like maybe a top shelf video with like, I don't know, maybe like the blood sort of like accumulating, and on the backside it says naughty, or something like that, that might be kind of fun. I'm trying to
I can see that. Or kind of like almost like a magic 8 ball, but make it just so it says Ira's Toys on it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
On the inside, it would just say naughty or nice.
I can see that
when you shake it.
Oh, or just like I think even having a staff T-shirt that said like Ira's Toys, staff, or something, and then like we can put like the Top Shelf logo on the back or something or whatever. I don't know. I think I will say, I think, and it's funny because as we were sitting here watching the movie and I was drinking my Coke Zero, which actually does have, oddly enough, has a Santa that kind of looks like Grandpa. If you look at like,
yeah, it does.
I kind of would have special labeled like red, with like instead of this Santa that's on here, but have like Billy, the Billy Santa, you know, and then it just says, you know, like I don't know if you remember, there was that one time where like Coke did a thing where they would put names like on the Coke bottles.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, share a Coke with people or whatever. Yeah. And we should do that. But then like
all of them say Billy.
Well, no. It says like naughty or nice, and maybe it's underneath like the label, like when you open the bottle. Remember those games where like you would open like the plastic bottle, and then underneath it would tell you like winner or and you'd win like a CD or whatever. So they could do that. It's like naughty or nice, and then like if it's naughty, then you get a free rental and or something like that. You know what I mean? Like if you're nice, well, you're nice, and if you're naughty, then we'll give you a free rental or something like that. So, well. Cool. I anything else that you can think of that you want to? Any other?
Nah, for this one, no. I think that
pretty limited.
I mean, those ideas to kind of let those bake. I'm good with those. The poster is the thing for me.
Yeah.
As far as, I mean, it's not necessarily merch, but as far as like the display of it, it's just because that particular. There's like 2 or 3 posters that are like ingrained in I think both of us.
Yeah.
This is one of them.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this is like a no-brainer as far as getting put up on the wall.
Yeah. I would agree.
Yeah. I mean, merch, I mean, it's
very seasonal. Like we probably can't have it up all year. Like some of the other movies that we've talked about. True. Like I would put this in the back and then we would pull it out during the season. The poster can be up all year, but like the standee and some of the other things that we're talking about, like that's very specific to the season and kind of adds a little bit of, it adds a mood to the space. And so, I could see that. That would make sense. So let's promote ourselves a little bit. I guess if you've been listening for some time now, like hopefully you've been listening for some time. And we appreciate that everybody's joining us and listening. Follow us on Instagram. It's Top Shelf Video TX, I think is what it is. I guess we don't have it yet, but I guess I'll do this here soon, and hopefully nobody will take it before I need to look at it. But I'll set up one of those blue sky things, and we'll be on TikTok. 2025 will be our more social push, I guess, but. You can go to our website, Top Shelf Video, topshelfvideo.com, and our email, topshelfvideopodcast@gmail.com. Send us emails, tell us your thoughts, give us feedback, tell us your stories of your video stores or, I don't know, like maybe some of the things that you remember watching some of these movies.
Those would be cool.
Yeah. I'd love to hear about
stories
people's...
the hometown video stores. I mean, we can't be the only ones that just miss that kind of shit.
Yeah, no, not at all. Like, I want to hear about like people's video store experiences and like what their video stores were called. One of my favorite books that's behind me is like Lunch Meat puts this out, and it's like it's a book that just has labels from different video stores. Like from all over the country, and they're all just scanned or photographed off of like most of the tapes that I have or a lot of people own. You kind of most video stores would put their label on there, and so you'd have like Pegasus Video or the Video Crypt or like A1 Video or like a Patriot Video or whatever like. Everybody had their little thing, and I feel like as we're kind of wrapping up, 2024, and we're we've really kind of gotten into a little bit more into our podcast about some of the things that we kind of remember about our video store, but our video store memories, I wouldn't say are limited, but we didn't have a ton of options, and there were some when I moved up here to Dallas, and then things started to phase out by the end of the end of like the 2000s, when video stores really started to kind of go the way of the dodo. But email us. Tell us, give us recommendations of movies that, maybe we need to have in the video store, or things absolutely. You remember about the video store. Yeah. Follow us on Instagram. I'll set up something on, like I said, Blue Sky and TikTok, I guess. We don't have either of those set up, but I'll get those set up at some point here pretty soon. But, I think we got, one more movie for 2024. And then we're going to take a little, we're going to give everybody a break at the store. And then we're going to take a little winter break, and focus on just the store and the inventory and stuff like that. But, if things go well in 2025, I'm really looking forward to some of the movies that we're going to talk about, but also some of the things that I'm going to be trying to do here in the Dallas area with, not only like, the Dallas VHS swap, but the video crypt, and also with our podcast. And if things can go well, and if you're listening, and if you're interested and you're in the Dallas area, I'm gonna potentially look at doing a rental, like a small rental of the movies that we're talking about, and some of the movies that I would recommend to people, for local people that want to rent from me. So I'm going to look to set up some memberships and stuff like that. So, if all goes well, that'll be 2025. So, it's going to be a good year, but, let's wrap up one more movie for this year. And, right. We got to, put our stocking stuffers for the employees and, everybody else. And, that's going to be, it's going to be it for tonight. I guess we need to, clean up all the pizza boxes and all the mess that everybody left, the popcorn from the movie. So I will, I'll sweep up if you want to start breaking down the projector and all the stuff, and maybe shut off some of the neon lights for tonight. I guess we will catch up tomorrow when we reopen the shop. So,
all right, brother.
All right,
sounds good, man.
Yeah, sounds good.
Another. It was a good night.
Yeah,
it was definitely a good night.
This was a fun one. So,
yeah. All right, man.
All right, we'll catch everybody at our next work shift, and we'll see you guys next time. All right, see ya
later.
All right.